I never thought the day would come when someone would physically drag my 78-year-old father out of an ambulance. But that's exactly what happened last Tuesday. The culprit? Our HOA president, Marlene Whitaker, who decided that her landscaping rules outweighed my father's medical emergency. This is how that unbelievable nightmare unfolded. My father, a Vietnam veteran with a Purple Heart and a long history of heart issues, had moved in with me 6 months ago after my mother passed away. We lived in Willow Ridge, a suburban neighborhood known for its flawless lawns, uniform mailboxes, and an HOA operated like a mini dictatorship by Marlene. From the first day we moved in, she had a problem with everything about our property. She complained about the American flag my father proudly flew, saying it was 3 inches too large for regulation. She labeled the birdbath in my backyard a health hazard, claiming it attracted disease-carrying wildlife. Her favorite strategy was passive-aggressive notes and violation slips shoved into our mailbox like clockwork every Friday. "Mr. Mitchell," she'd say in a voice so saccharine it could curdle milk, "we value our community standards here in Willow Ridge. Perhaps this neighborhood isn't the right fit for everyone." I'd smile, nod, and tell her I appreciated the input. That always seemed to make her eye twitch. Then came last Tuesday. I was working from home when I heard my father groan from the kitchen. When I ran in, I found him gripping his chest, face pale and sweat pouring down his temples. I immediately called 911 and began CPR. The dispatcher was calm, reassuring me that help was en route. Within minutes, I heard the sirens and saw the ambulance arrive. Relief surged through me. But as the EMTs stepped onto our driveway with their equipment, Marlene came tearing across her lawn, arms flailing. "Excuse me," she barked, blocking their path. Commercial vehicles are not permitted in driveways according to Section 8.6 of our HOA bylaws. You need to park on the street and carry your equipment from there. The paramedics froze for a moment, stunned by her audacity. "My father is having a heart attack," I shouted. "Let them do their job." Thankfully, the paramedics pushed past her without another word, focused entirely on saving a life. Within minutes, they had stabilized my father, loaded him onto a gurney, and began wheeling him out toward the ambulance. But Marlene wasn't finished. She stood squarely at the end of the driveway, arms crossed and eyes narrow. "I've documented this violation," she hissed, glaring at me. "This will be addressed at the next HOA meeting, along with your unauthorized lawn decor and those unsightly solar lights." I ignored her, my attention solely on my father. His color had improved slightly, but he still looked far too weak. Just as I climbed into the back of the ambulance to be with him, I heard more shouting. One of the paramedics was trying to close the ambulance doors when Marlene wedged herself between them. "You need to move this vehicle immediately," she yelled. "It's blocking the view of the community fountain." "That's a violation." The paramedic responded calmly. "Ma'am, this is a medical emergency. Please step back." But Marlene didn't step back. She reached into the ambulance, grabbed my father's wrist, and tried to yank him forward. "If he's well enough to violate regulations, he's well enough to get out of this eyesore of a vehicle," she snapped. My father groaned in pain. The paramedic immediately called for assistance. Without thinking, I lunged forward, pulled her hand off my father, and pushed her away from the ambulance. "Are you out of your mind?" I shouted. "He could die if you delay this." Her eyes widened with indignation. "You assaulted me. I am the president of this HOA, and you will respect my authority." She whipped out her phone and began recording. "This man is a danger to our community," she yelled. "Look what he just did to me." At that moment, a police cruiser pulled into the cul-de-sac. Officer Daniel Ruiz stepped out, surveyed the chaos, and calmly approached. Marlene immediately turned to him. "Officer, arrest him," she screeched, pointing at me. "He just attacked me while I was trying to enforce our community standards." Meanwhile, the paramedics explained what had really happened, how she had tried to forcibly remove a critically ill elderly man from their care. One of them even showed Officer Ruiz the incident recorded on the ambulance's internal camera. Officer Ruiz turned to Marlene. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to step away from the vehicle." Her voice grew shrill. "I am the president of this HOA. I have every right to enforce our covenants. These people have been in violation since day one." He didn't flinch. "Ma'am, I don't care if you're the president of the United States. You interfered with emergency medical personnel and endangered a patient's life. That is a criminal offense." When she tried to hand him a copy of the bylaws, Officer Ruiz had heard enough. "Marlene Whitaker, you are under arrest for assault and interference with emergency services." Gasps echoed through the neighborhood as he gently turned her around, handcuffed her, and read her rights. Marlene shrieking about property values and HOA authority faded as she was escorted into the police car. The ambulance finally left, sirens wailing, and got my father to the hospital just in time. The ER doctor later told me that any further delay might have been fatal. 3 weeks later, I sat in the county courthouse as Marlene stood trial. The courtroom was packed with neighbors, many of whom had witnessed the entire event. The paramedics testified, the security footage was shown, and the evidence was overwhelming. The judge, a calm and composed man with a veteran's lapel pin on his robe, delivered the verdict. Ms. Whitaker, you have been found guilty of assault and interference with emergency medical services. You will perform 200 hours of community service at the VA hospital and pay a $5,000 fine. Additionally, you are to complete an anger management course. Marlene looked stunned, but the judge wasn't finished. Furthermore, I am issuing a restraining order. You are not to come within 100 feet of Mr. Mitchell or his father. Gasps once again filled the courtroom. The implications were clear. With the restraining order in place, Marlene could no longer serve on the HOA board. Her face flushed crimson. But Your Honor, she sputtered, I've been HOA president for over 7 years. The community needs me. The judge remained unmoved. I suggest you find a new hobby, Ms. Whitaker, one that doesn't involve terrorizing elderly veterans. The gavel came down with a final bang. And just like that, Marlene's reign of control over Willow Ridge ended. Peace returned to the neighborhood, and my father could finally enjoy his days without fear of harassment. Some neighbors even stopped by to apologize for not standing up to her sooner. They say justice moves slow, but sometimes it arrives exactly when it's needed most. In the weeks that followed, the neighborhood underwent a subtle transformation. The new interim HOA president, Linda Carr, called a community meeting, the first one in years where residents actually felt welcome. For the first time, people spoke freely. Long-held grievances surfaced, laughter returned, and for once, the rules were discussed, not dictated. My father, though still recovering, began joining me on morning walks again. Neighbors who had once crossed the street to avoid us now waved or stopped to chat. One evening, the mailman even left a note thanking my dad for his service and apologizing for not saying something sooner. The birdbath stayed. The solar lights stayed. And yes, the American flag still flew, proudly rippling in the breeze, 3 inches over regulation and untouched. As for Marlene, she was last seen repainting benches at the VA hospital, her community service vest 2 sizes too big, her expression blank with resignation. Rumor has it she tried to run a book club at the hospital and was politely told to focus on sanding handrails. My father and I still sit out on the porch some evenings, sipping sweet tea and sharing the quiet. Sometimes he'll chuckle to himself and say, "You know, son, I fought in a war and never thought I'd find my next battle in a cul-de-sac. But I think we won this one." And I'd nod, smile, and agree. Yes, we did.